Butcher time. You know what this means. Good fresh bacon. It's a raw cold morning to be doing this. It's 15 below this morning and my hands are a bit cold, but luckily the carcass is hot. That helps a lot. Typically my knife hand gets really cold and I get a little clumsy. So I gotta go real slow and careful so I don't cut myself because of the clumsiness in my fingers. Oh, this pig's about 150 pounds, probably not that big. It's looking a lot bigger in that video there just because of the angle. So, I had some extra hogs. I just butcher, when we run out of pork, I butcher. This is 150 pounds, and by the time this one runs out, my next butcher hog is probably going to be, close to 280, 300 live. So, some good old fresh farm pork. We like to raise our hogs. Oh, they're grain fed, that's for sure, but they get the slop from the house. They get all the garden leftovers. They eat hay too. I give them quite a bit of good hay. Good quality hay. It really changes the taste of the food. And any pig will eat hay. You don't have to get some kind of special breed or anything. Pigs naturally like a varied diet. If they were out in the wild, they'd be eating meat and grass and roots and berries and grains where they can find them. But you feed a animal strictly grain, their meat is going to start gets a little off taste. I mean, I like it, but it's just not the same. You can really tell in the smell of their shit. If the animal's diet is balanced, it just smells different. Their shit has a very sour taint to it. That's kind of the same as, some people are like, well, I don't grain feed my hogs. They get old milk or something like that. And same difference. That milk is really, really high protein. It's a lot like a grain. And the pig still ends up with very sour smelling, nasty smelling shit. And I'm not saying any pig shit smells good, but there's a big difference to my nose, like a hog barn type smell when they're just eating all that grain, and it's just a smell I about can't stand. So you can do the same thing by overfeeding one thing or the other. Pigs should have a good balance of proteins, grains, and roughage. One year I fattened off a batch of butcher hogs. I had a pasture that grew up in white and red clovers. It was almost solid clovers with some weeds. And I just fed them whole corn. Now, normally when you just feed pigs whole corn, they're going to be, isn't a real high protein balance. So they're going to grow. They're going to look like they grow really good. They're going to look really sleek and fat. They're going to be really, really fat. They're not going to have a very high meat to fat ratio compared to a formulated feed with higher protein. But one year I did raise up some butcher hogs on corn and clover, and I was amazed at how well they grew. That clover is high protein, and it made up for the lack of the protein in the corn. And the flavor of that meat was just unreal. It was really good. Got a lot of compliments also from my customers. But this is what goes on the. Oh, that's bad for a blade. It's what goes on at Sweet Home Farms. We don't buy meat. Not a big fan of processed foods. I tend to, if I eat too much processed meats, bacon and stuff that's been processed with added nitrates and nitrites and other things, I start to get sick. I usually get little warnings, and then I know to back off as far as if I'm eating out or stuff. But if I persist in eating sausages and other stuff that aren't but they got the preservatives in them that you typically get in a store, I will get very, very sick. So we do all our own butcher. Even if I didn't get sick, I'd probably stick to it. You know what went in your animal. You know. Geez, spit it out, son. You know what they've been fed and how that animal lived. It's just a satisfying feeling. I mean, I'm no professional butcher. I don't know most of the cuts, but I do know how to kill it humanely. You know, I know where to put the bullet to drop them with one shot. And then I like to stick them in the hollow of the shoulder and the chest, and try and get the knife in there and hit that heart. You know, before you got a few seconds before they start kicking after you shoot them, and you want to get that heart stuck. And the reason I like to stick the heart is because it gives an opening right to the outside for all the blood. The more blood you get out of your carcass, the better your meat is going to preserve, the better it's going to taste. The more blood is left in the meat, the stronger your taste is going to be. That is my experience. I'm not an expert butcher as far as knowing all the cuts and stuff, but boy, George, when it's time to eat, nobody gives a shit. It all tastes good, man. Sometimes my bacon's got a little ham on it, my ham's got a little bacon on it. I am getting a little better and trying to learn a little more. Cutting pork chops, and pork steak, and barbecued ribs, and obviously bacon. Bacon's the best. We also render our own lard, use it only lard for cooking. We don't like those cooking oils, vegetable oils, and all of that. About the only oil that I'm probably comfortable using is olive oil. Oh, there's people say that's not good for you either, but there's people say that animal lard ain't good for you. But I'm a fan of keeping it as natural as possible. I believe that the Lord gave us healthy food and to eat. And the more we intervene with what the Lord give us, the farther we're going to stray for something that's going to sustain our bodies and our minds in a healthful way. The more processed you get in your food, I believe the more unhealthy it gets, and that includes your fast-growing vegetables and stuff these days, which I'd still say if you grow your own vegetables, even if it's a GMO variety, you're going to be, at least it's a vegetable. You're not cramming your face with some kind of processed junk. But there is no denying that today's vegetables have a far higher sugar content than they used to have. I mean, that's the big advertisement when you're going through the seed catalog and you're looking at your sweet corn, extra sweet. You're looking at your carrots, extra sweet. Looking at your sweet peppers, extra sweet. It's sugar makes things taste better. Sugar in itself isn't evil. You gotta watch it. But if you have real sweet vegetables, most of your canning recipes add sugar, so you probably aren't really going to get that much more sugar from the sweet varieties if you put your recipes to taste, and you just don't have to add as much sugar. In the end, you still end up with a sweet product, and it tastes good. And I'm not a fan of too much sugar, but I'm not a fan of eating a bunch of food that just tastes blah because there's not enough sugar in it. You know, like some of our tomato sauces when we were first married, I was a little more like, I wasn't sure what was making me sick. I thought it might be the sugar. So we cut way back on all the sugar, and we didn't add any sugar to our canned food. And boy, some of that tomato sauce stuff, that got pretty damn sharp. You're trying to eat chili soup and feels like it's burning the back of your throat because of the acids. So we started, it was still tasted good, it got a little strong sometimes. So we started adding more sugar again. We just try to keep it balanced and try not to make our canned food taste like dessert. But a little bit of sugar in there can sure balance out the sharpness. But over the years I figured out the sugar's not what's making me sick. It's I don't really know what ingredient's making me sick. All I know is over-processed junk makes me very sick. And most people don't know I'm sick when I'm sick because I lived with it most of my life and I learned how to deal with it. And I thought that, you know, what I'm experiencing, I just figured other people experienced it. I didn't know what I was experiencing was unusual. You know, until along comes the internet and you can look up anything you want. And I started to get sicker and sicker. Just figured out that, you know, the more processed food I eat, the sicker I get. And so a couple years ago, told my wife, you know what, I'm just gonna skip eating out. If you could make my lunch bucket for me every day when I go off to work, and we'll give this a try where I only eat food from home, and most of my symptoms went away. It's pretty amazing. My symptoms are like, for years I just thought I would get summer colds because I was having, you get plug sinuses and I'd get a really bad sore throat. And my throat, that would flare up just terrible. It would, it'd get really raw spots and it would swell up. Then I'd get mucus in the back of my throat. And so with the throat swelling and the mucus, sometimes I couldn't sleep because as soon as I'd fall asleep, my air would shut off and I'd wake up panicking. And so it was a long, miserable process, but I figured out, hey, I get rid of this thing, I feel a little better. I just kept going until finally one day it's like, you know what? I'm done with processed foods. Which, I still cheat. When I'm feeling good, I'll have some chips, I'll have a little this and that. And I can handle some off, my body can filter it out. It just, if you start stacking it, you know, it don't take long. And I'm a very sick man, and I'm starting to think that most of the sickness just comes from extreme inflammation. And I've been experimenting a little. When I start to feel a certain way, I take ibuprofen and it's gone. And so ibuprofen is an anti-inflammatory, so I'm thinking that a lot of this, my symptoms are driven by inflammation. Now that's a whole hell of a lot of guessing, but anyway, that's a long ramble to explain why we are so into our own food. And I have first-hand accounts of feeling very, very sick eating other stuff and feeling pretty damn good when I just eat farm food. So, hope you all have a good day.